Welcome to the UFFS Podcast with Darren Bates and Larry Fisher. Shining a spotlight on the most realistic fantasy sports platform ever. If it happens in Ultimate Franchise Fantasy Sports, you'll find out here. UFFS, you own the game.
Hello, and welcome to the UFFS Podcast number 21 with Fish and Bates, proudly broadcasting, of course, on the UFSN network, where, it's so very easy to find us. Our website is live, so go to www.uffsports.com. You will find the UFSN little icon in the explainer video. Click on that. Boom, takes you right to our YouTube channel, where you will find us. And hello to the busiest man in fantasy sports, Fish. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good, Darren. We got a full slate today. It's been a whirlwind couple weeks, and it's exciting to have some more sport announcements and some big ones today. UFF Sports is rapidly expanding, and it's going from one sport to another, and now two sports at once today. So exciting times ahead, you could say.
Yeah, so we've got, the two hockey leagues, right? So we've been operating with the UFHL and UFAHL for a full season, UFGA golf, UFBA basketball. But why? Why should we stop there? There's no reason to. So two big announcements, as you say. The Fish, the way I look at it, you build it, they come. And they will come, like the Field of Dreams movie. But we have signed up some huge talent. So excited to get these two guys on the show today.
Yeah, two new heads of sport operations to go along with the two sport announcements. We're going to introduce the two people who are heading up those sports, and both very established in their respective sports. So it's going to be great to have them in the fold and have their expertise in launching these leagues and getting towards the franchise auctions and the gameplay to come.
Yep. So on the agenda today, we're gonna obviously meet those folks and talk about the two sports, and we are also going to finish up the show as we usually do with very important dates, and we are going to give you some insight on some preparation on what the owner should do or be doing for the meetings that'll be coming up, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But we're gonna meet the first of the new sport head of operations coming up right after this.
Time for a quick lineup change, but Bates and Fish will be back right away with today's guest.
Wow. Every time I think I can't get more excited, I see a video like that, and then I get to see Andy McNamara's face right here on our show. Welcome to the show, Andy.
Oh, Darren, man, it is just phenomenal. Look at that intro. Look at what we have to look forward to. I am so pumped and thrilled to be here with you two guys and just to talk about the UFAHL, the debut, and just what this means for the future of fantasy football.
Absolutely. The ultimate fantasy American Football League. Let me try it. Let me see if I can get this out without screwing it up. UFAHL. Hey, it rolls nicely off the tongue.
Nice.
Our NFL mirroring league. Yeah, no, it's, it actually comes out very, very nice. Pleased to announce officially to the world that you are officially the head of operations for football operations here at Ultimate Franchise Fantasy Sports. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Let's start first of all with you telling us a little bit about yourself. Whatever you want to reveal, you can go back as far as you want. It's
Sure.
up to you. And then what brought you to wanting to take on this exciting role?
Well, first of all, again, I cannot overstate enough how thrilled I am to be a part of this and to be on the ground floor. Like pretty much everything, if you think about it, in the world has been done, right? So when you can be on the cusp of something new, something special, like the UFAHL, and be a part of UFF Sports, which has been phenomenal already in its time being around, I just knew I had to be a part of it. And my background, currently, I'm the Sportsnet National Fantasy Analyst for across Canada, for fantasy sports there, previously with TSN. And I write, host, guest, everything fantasy sports. Specifically, if I could have my way about it, it would just be fantasy football personally. But I touch on everything there. And before TSN, and still currently doing when live sports are allowed to be commentated, do the play-by-play for the National Lacrosse League with the Toronto Rock, Rogers TV going before that, and all the way back. I could talk your ears off forever. But the main thing is Sportsnet and the Fantasy Show, which is every Sunday across the Sportsnet radio network, but on the social media side at AndyMC81 on Twitter, just providing fantasy content. And I thought, well, if I'm talking fantasy football, that's my passion. That's what I love on all platforms. What better way to be able to combine the worlds of NFT blockchain, which is the hottest thing going, with fantasy football? And we'll get into this, I'm sure, at an in-depth level that I personally haven't seen. And I've covered just about everything when it comes to different types of fantasy football leagues and promotions and how it goes. This is something truly special.
Yeah, this is we call it elite fantasy sports. I mean, there's a lot of things that happen in this league that will truly have never been done in the world before. I think you've obviously learned a lot about that. You and I are going to be talking a lot. I think obviously here in the future. With a lot of things that are going on. And part of it, reason being, Andy, is because I got a lot to learn about NFL football. Me being a Saskatchewan boy, born and raised, you would know that being born in Saskatchewan, well, that comes along with CFL and Saskatchewan Roughriders.
Absolutely.
So I do bleed green. So that's kind of the way it works for me. But, around where I do live now in Manitoba, around Winnipeg, there are a lot of NFL fans here, but you hear a lot about Green Bay. You hear a lot about the Vikings, but you don't very often. In fact, I got to be honest with you, I've never, ever heard the Cleveland Browns come up. So, but you are a diehard Cleveland Browns fan. So tell me a little bit about that.
Look at the set. I got a signed Bernie Kosar mini helmet. I got that signed in person at the 2019 Cleveland Browns training camp. Joe Thomas right behind me here, future Hall of Famer. Baker Mayfield stuff signed all over the place. Love it. So I'm a third generation Cleveland Browns fan. So my grandfather, going all the way back to when the team was founded, post World War II, listened to them on the radio. And I'm from the Toronto area. And so at that time, there was just on the radio, you could either get the Cleveland Browns or the New York Giants. That was pretty much it. They went with the Cleveland Browns with Paul Brown and the dynasty. Then my dad took over that mantle and he got Jim Brown and those great championship teams of the 60s. And then I came along and it hasn't been as good for me. It hasn't been as lucrative for me as far as being a fan or having that fan investment. But I love it. We go down to Cleveland every single year except for last year because of the pandemic, hoping we can get back down this year. It's like a second home to me and just absolute diehard to the end Cleveland Browns fan. So I love the city, the team, and it's really been a part of what grew my passion for football, which eventually led into the fantasy football side here, and everything sort of connected up.
And I know Johnny Football came through Cleveland and ended up in the CFL. So there's a little tie over there. And not
Sadly,
the best friend. He might have been a franchise player at one point or a top prospect in the UFAHL. But talk about your history in fantasy football, because you said that's the sport you're most passionate about. What kind of involvement have you been playing fantasy football, like you said, since high school, since going back a number of decades, or what's sort of your involvement there, and what attracted you to a role like this where you'll be overseeing an entire football ecosystem in the fantasy world?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I would advise people not to invest in Johnny Manziel. That's done. Okay? That's a free tip for you. Nah, Johnny Football's gone. Okay? That's number one. But my fantasy football, going back to playing, probably first came about, I would say, probably early 2000s is where I first started to get into it. And as the sophistication of the internet and the leagues and formats and platforms grew, so did my interest in it. And it got to be when I got into the sports broadcasting and writing industry. I was a featured NFL columnist for Bleacher Report. Also, that was sort of when I was doing solely NFL, and then started to bleed into the fantasy side, because I started thinking, well, I play fantasy football. I love it. It relates so closely to real life football anyway. Why not get into that hotspot? And it sort of has grown from there. I've written for DraftKings site for quite a bit, and guested on sports stations across North America, ESPN, Houston, Cleveland, across Canada and all that. And so what I love is just being able to look at real life football, translate it into the fantasy side of things, and really sort of sink my teeth into. I'm passionate about the sleeper side, the underside of it, of who's coming up. Anybody can say, look, hey, Aaron Rodgers is real good. Yeah, obviously. But how do you build your team? How do you build championship teams? The NFL draft that's coming up specifically. I'm a draft junkie, boys. Okay, this is like when the combine was going on before this year. It was just something I just dive into these prospects. And in this format, what drew me in part to this whole ecosystem of UFF Sports and the UFAHL that's coming up is you can have, and I get to oversee scouts, franchise owners, people going and tracking these prospects and building them up, and eventually having it where, look, you're getting Trevor Lawrence, 2 years before he comes out of the draft, and you're going to be owning him. Going into the present Legends League stuff that's going to be coming up, which is just going to be phenomenal when we're able to announce all of that. But it's a nice blend, and I thought learning about UFF and talking to you guys and Tony and the whole gang, I just thought we're combining fantasy football, which is as hot as it's ever been, and with the NFL signing a $10.3 billion TV deal, it's only going to get hotter, with NFT and blockchain, which is on the rise, but still one of the hottest things to talk about out there. So why not combine the two? And I thought, well, with my experience and passion, why not go in and head up these football operations and really take this UFAHL to something special, and guys get as in-depth as ever with fantasy football outside of just your typical position groups. I think it's going to be something really special.
And that is the vision, the theme of UFF Sports is to provide the most realistic fantasy experience available. And I know we've talked a lot about, even potentially giving value to offensive linemen and creating ways that they can have real world value. But the scouting side too, like you said, is so innovative, because not every, but your dynasty, your keeper leagues, they do have their annual rookie draft, the same as the NFL draft. But like you said, to register these prospects in high school, or, coming out of high school, and to follow them and have a vested interest in their career. And from that side, when you have every NFL player who's on an NFL roster in the real world is going to be on a roster in the UFAHL, when you combine that, you realize, like, I know with the hockey platform, there's 3,250 NFTs owned as hockey players or registered, and there's only 736 players on NHL rosters. So you can see how big this is, and it'll be the same for football. But just the scouting side being so innovative, I know that's one thing that really excited you to have that vested interest in a prospect, and the fact that it is, at the end of the day, still real world scouting.
Yes. 100%. And that's that's really where I think you look at, okay, you have the now players and all that, which is tremendous, and the now part of the league in fantasy play. But to be able to track these guys, like a Justin Fields, when he transferred over to Ohio State, and maybe that's when in the future a similar situation, you're like, okay, that's a guy somebody's got something special there. And to have scouts and for franchises to be able to build out their organizations like legitimate NFL organizations where you have scouts in different areas across the country, or yourself, your own research, whatever it might be, but you have a chance to build this into a real life football organization. And when we're talking about, you mentioned the offensive lineman, we're talking special teams, defensive tackles, punters, whatever a normal NFL team looks like on game day, from roster size to practice squad to salary cap. That is what we're going to be emulating. So when you have a UFAHL franchise, you are operating it as an NFL franchise. This isn't for your office pool guy who forgets to set his lineup. This is as intense, as real as it gets. And then when you add in the NFT blockchain side to it, it's just the perfect blend of investment and fantasy sports. It's I'm honestly, I just can't wait to really get going and dig my teeth into this one.
Yeah, Andy, what I've seen, in the Telegram chats, and you already know that we operate in the Telegram format, and the trash talk. You talk about the passion and how people get into this thing because it is elite stakes. There's a lot of fun to be had, but there's a lot of trash talking too, which makes it so much fun. But I'm going to tell you, so we do know the draft is coming up this next weekend, or this coming weekend, I guess you could say, in Cleveland of all places.
I can't be there. I'm bummed.
I know. Well, yeah, I'm sure you'll be involved or watching some fashion, but I'm really interested to know how, in NFTs with utilities, what we do here at UFFS, I'm interested to know how far we are away with the NFTs, such a buzz now, in where, a team might come up and say, we are selecting as our pick the NFT with, this name. I just kind of wonder how far we might be away from something like that, because we refer to them as NFTs here.
Right. And yeah, April 29, the draft in Cleveland. And really, once we get the known locations for all these players, 3-day draft, right? And you have 7 full rounds. So think about this. It's not like your typical fantasy football draft where you have, you're drafting your 3 wide receivers, 2 running backs, quarterback, tight end, and 1 defense. You have NFTs. NFTs are going to be created and opportunities to own all players from 7 rounds of this draft, plus any undrafted free agents, because there's always a slew of those guys who get picked up. So what I'm interested to see is how this evolves and how, let's say, because especially in the United States, the high school and collegiate football fan base is absolute next level. Like, guys, I don't know about you, but for when I played high school football, you're lucky if the parents were outside watching it. And I've been to high school games in Cleveland, 10,000 people, Friday night lights. So imagine this. You're a fan, you're a scout, you're getting involved in this. You're in Cleveland, you're in Texas, you're wherever, and you're tracking your favorite high school player all the way through. You can own that NFT because there's only one. That's the thing. It's not like you have, one Baker Mayfield of 10,000. There's one Baker Mayfield. You got him, he's yours. And that's the difference. And you're able to track these guys. And for the draft purposes, you're seeing it where, all right, for this specific year, because it is the launch, we're going to see who ends up where. What surprises? There's always surprises in the draft. Who goes where? What quarterback, what wide receiver went to a spot where, hey, you know what? I liked him before. Now I really like him. Now I really got to have him. And when we get into the auction portion of all this, and you see there on the screen, July 4th to 18th, when we have the franchise auctions, and then everything gets going from there with a superstar franchise player attached to each franchise, which is incredibly exciting. That's where in that draft process, you're going to be able to see and look at your scouts, whether it's yourself, your scout team, whatever, and think, all right, guys, what's your draft board like? That's what I find so exciting. It's like you have your own draft board. You're on your own draft schedule of who do you got ranked where? Where is this at And where am I going to take this guy? And to find those values, that's what I think the key is going to be. And what, again, I'm interested if a guy's just following different schools, following these players all the way along, we're going to see something where, you get a guy who's a fan of a particular school and you have scouts in those areas. It's going to be so potentially detailed that's where I think people are going to make their investment and have the most fun of being able to track these guys. And then ultimately the gameplay and the investments of the NFTs.
Absolutely. So you talked about the franchise auctions coming up July 4th to the 18th. In 1-star NFT per franchise, your humble opinion, going to put you on the hot seat right now. Who do you think is going to be who's going to be up on that, probably the top bidding war in terms of the top NFT?
I would have to say everybody loves quarterbacks, right? Quarterbacks, they get the most credit and they take the most heat, rightfully or wrongly. I think it's going to be a quarterback. Although I'd love to say it would be my guy, Baker Mayfield. I don't think so. It's going to be Patrick Mahomes. I think it's going to be Patrick Mahomes. And that, to me, is probably going to be the hottest go after first. Then you add in, okay, what about a Josh Allen with the Buffalo Bills, right? How much do people value somebody maybe, and I don't know if he's going to be on this list or not, or not yet. What about like a young guy like a Justin Herbert, rookie of the year? Where do you value these guys? What is a Trevor Lawrence going to look like? Does he qualify as a top 32 coming in with all the potential in the world, but a lot of unknowns? And then you can go to the defensive sides as well, right? Does a Nick Bosa, does a Myles Garrett, does a Chase Claypool? Where do you look at these franchise guys? And that, again, is your NFT. You get Aaron Rodgers, you get Tom Brady, you get whoever. That is your own player. And that's what I find so fascinating. That's the guy who's going to captain your franchise. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I was going to say Tom Brady with the Legends League potential too. I mean,
that's big time.
As the GOAT, he might actually top Patrick Mahomes as the upcoming fantasy player. There might be a bidding war over Tom Brady that blows us all away just based on his career accomplishments.
Yep, I think you're right. The Tom Brady with the Legends League aspect of it, that's the next level. That's when we announce that. To compliment UFAHL, guys. I can't stop from smiling. I cannot wait for that too, because that Legends League is going to be something super special as well.
Well, Andy, just believe it or not, time flies, right? I just looked at my calendar and for goodness sakes, we're halfway through April. So May, June, we have 2 months until these franchise auctions. A lot of work to do. I know you've already been doing a lot of work and you've got a lot of great ideas. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show as we announce you and a great fit as head of football operations here at UFFS. This is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of great learning for me, and I'm very much looking forward to it. So thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, guys, thank you. I look so forward to working with all of you and all the future franchise owners as well. This is going to be a level of fun and detail and excitement for fantasy football that has not been seen anywhere else. So I'm very much looking forward to it.
Absolutely. And we're going to be back and we're going to introduce sport number 2 as the UFFS is expanding and announce head of operations right after this. Oh man, this day just keeps getting better and better and better. I could literally sit in front of my computer or my TV and I could just watch these videos, the minute or 2 minutes long they are, over and over again, to be honest with you. It just pumps me right up. Yeah, I should eat these things for breakfast in the morning. I think it would start my day. Someone that doesn't really need an official welcome to the show, because he's always on the show in some capacity and hosts a few of many, awesome podcasts, my go-tos here on the UFSN network. And of course, but never been on the show in this official capacity. And that capacity is head of operations for baseball at UFFS. Welcome, the great Dean Millard. Hey, Dean.
Thank you. Glad to be here. I'm really glad that this day is here where we can shout from the rooftops about the ultimate fantasy league baseball. And it is going to be the ultimate. I mean, I know Andy loves that football logo, and I do too. I want to get one on a helmet, but I love this logo. It's big, it's bold. The guy just crushed one like 550 and he's staring at it. The pictures all over him. He doesn't even care. It's big, it's bold, and that's what the UFLB is going to be. It's going to be big and bold. And, Andy and his group is going to change the football fantasy world. We're going to do the same with baseball. It's going to be amazing. And, I'm a massive, massive baseball guy. So I'm really looking forward to this opportunity.
Yeah, I knew you, of course, as a hockey guy, of course, based on, what we do here at UFFS and your involvement in the UFHL and UFAHL. Of course, I've seen a lot of your fantasy stuff about NFL, and I do know you're passionate about baseball. But a lot of folks, that might be tuning in and watching this show for the first time, they might not know all that about you. So if you wouldn't mind, maybe give us a little bit of history about yourself and maybe what led you into this role as head of operations for baseball.
Yeah, I grew up in southwestern Manitoba in Brandon, and hockey was always first and foremost. I have an Andy Moog wall, so I definitely am first and foremost. I shouldn't say am. I always was first and foremost hockey, and as I've gotten older, I've really leaned more towards the game of baseball. But as a kid, I played goal, and then I wanted to be a catcher, and I loved Tony Pena, and I loved his stance. His butt was right on the ground, and his knees were up, and for a few years I could do that, and if I tried that now I probably wouldn't get up. But I was on a road trip watching my brother Darren play hockey in the SJHL. He was trying out, I can't remember if it was Kindersley or Weyburn, I can't remember where, but it was October 16th, 1988, and the guy wearing number 23 hit a home run off Dennis Eckersley in the World Series. It's my favorite sports moment of all time. Kirk Gibson was on the training table, wasn't even expected to be in the game. Vin Scully saying he's not going to be able to play actually inspired him to get up and swing a bat. He came up, hit a game-winning home run, and I was hooked. One, because it was Vin Scully calling the game, and he is just the greatest voice of all time. And two, it was just an unbelievable moment. I'm like, what the heck? We had keep in mind, we just came off recently Canada Cup 87 at that point, and I didn't think anything could be better than Gretzky to Lemieux with Larry Murphy as the greatest decoy ever. And then Kirk Gibson hits this home run. I was hooked. I fell in love with Oral Hershiser. That season, he had a record streak of consecutive scoreless innings. And I've been a Dodger fan ever since. And recently, they just won in a World Series for the first time in 32 years. And maybe it's just everything's coming together in my world. The Dodgers win a World Series. I get the opportunity to build the greatest baseball fantasy platform ever within this company, and it's so great. And I touched up the set. Here's the Edmonton Trappers. I was able to see the very last game. Odd fact about that, they didn't complete it. It was a rainout. So the very last game of the Edmonton Trappers was a rainout. I got a duck with a bat, some gold eyes, some Dodgers. So I'm set to build UFLB and at the same time host a fantasy baseball show at some point. So that's my passion for baseball. I absolutely love it. I'd love to get back playing it whenever we can do those sort of things again. Now that I don't work nights anymore and then, there till the studio till midnight, it's definitely something I want to get back into. But I can't wait for this to put all my baseball passion into this amazing league that we're going to build.
And you're no stranger to fantasy baseball, Dean. You've been playing fantasy baseball for a number of years. Talk about your expertise in fantasy baseball and bringing that to this platform, to UFFS, and really, like you said, being able to be a hands-on. I mean, you've been commissioners in other leagues, but really to form the entire ecosystem of baseball for UFFS.
Yeah, I think it's going to be so much fun. I just actually took over from Jamie Thomas, who's a consultant with Duckman's Domination in the Ultimate Fantasy Hockey League, and he was commissioner of our baseball league for a long time. I just recently took over from that, and the first change I made was we're no longer a weekly league. You can't have baseball, especially as a weekly league. You shouldn't have hockey as a weekly league either, because it's not best on best. Then it becomes best on 3 guys that are injured and things like that. So that was the first thing. I'm like, baseball is a daily game. There's lineup changes. Some guys are, just because they have a game that day, especially have a catcher, Yadier Molina is not playing every day. So you got to be conscious of that. So I'm looking forward to it. I've got a great team that is going to be helping me out with this. We have Brian Hernandez, who's going to head up the scouting department, and he's no stranger to that. He's obviously the assistant GM with Dynasty and runs Californication and Dawn Patrol in the UFAHL. So he's been chomping at the bit. He's been sending us lists of the top prospects, and I can't wait to see how that unfolds. And we're really lucky to have a guy by the name of Matt Soren joining us. He is kind of going to be the head of competition and recruitment. And what I really like about him is that he's played minor league baseball. He's actually going to play in the Olympics for Israel. So how cool is that when we're going to get to chat with, one of the guys building our team at the Olympics while he's playing baseball. And he's got a lot of great contacts. He's going to be a huge resource for us when we are building the gameplay and the rules and how we always want to mirror as much about Major League Baseball or the NFL or the NHL as possible. Well, how better can it be than a guy who's been through that and knows the rules? And, as I'm building the rule book, there's obviously a lot of differences between baseball and hockey, but there's a lot of things that make me really excited about those differences in building a brand new league.
And Matt, like you said, has the real world experience, and you and Brian should hit it off great. I know he's based in LA. He's a Dodgers fan. He's been at quite a few Dodgers games already this spring or this month. So exciting to have those two in the fold and to really sort of build out the staff or the operations staff for baseball. But what are you most looking forward to in your role going forward now? I know obviously there'll be the Twitter account and the Telegram group and really, like I said, finally the cat's out of the bag and being able to actively recruit franchise owners and get excited about that. And then, you have a good runway all the way until October 26th to November 7th will be the franchise auction for UFLB. But to be able to select those franchise players and attach those NFTs to the UFLB franchises, that's going to be a really exciting thing. But what are you looking forward to most? Is there one thing above all, or is it just all those elements coming together now that the cat's out of the bag?
Yeah, well, first of all, that's the one. There has been one problem with Brian and I is that he tweets and sends me pictures of him at Chavez Ravine watching the Dodgers live while I'm here in St. Albert watching snow come down. He's watching the Dodgers, so that's going to have to stop. He's going to have to stop trolling me that he's at these live Dodger games. But yeah, we've been talking a lot about the Dodgers, and they've had some roller coaster games, so we've been going back and forth. So I'm looking forward to what I'm really, 2 things I'm looking forward to. First of all, here we go. You can get on Twitter right now and you can find the Ultimate Fantasy League Baseball Twitter account at UFLB_UFF. So please give us a follow, everybody out there. So we're building our social media already, but I'm really looking forward to seeing how people pick their franchise. You guys had Andy McNamara on. I can't wait to see, a defensive player or a defensive fan go after a defensive player and build their team that way. I really am interested to see how the NFTs that are attached to the franchises get auctioned off in that sort, and what players can get the most, and what strategies. Plus, I'm really interested into seeing, baseball has such an international flavor to it now. So how is that scouting program going to work? How is Brian going to build it out, with so many great prospects? The scouting thing is interesting in baseball because players often opt back into the draft. So, scouts will get to hang on to their players for a little bit more value if they want to. So there's a lot of different things. The one thing I'm really looking forward to in baseball, though, is as opposed to hockey, there's no salary cap in baseball. There is a luxury tax. And so we're going to be implementing that. I'm not sure we're going to be charging owners the 30% of the $176 million that the Major League Baseball teams are spending, but there is going to be that luxury tax. And, the benefit for everybody else is that ups the prize pool. So I like baseball because there's a number of different ways to generate bigger prize pools for the players. And I can't wait for, Fernando Tatis Sr. or Vlad Sr. or Craig Biggio to maybe get involved and go after that team that maybe has that NFT attached to it or something like that. That's when I think it could be really cool, is getting some, former Major League Baseball players that have kids in the game right now and they get involved in bidding on their own kids. How cool would that be?
Dean, you probably can see that I'm not sitting still. It's because I'm getting my glove ready for my own season here. I'm pumped. I can't wait for this season to begin, to be honest. I love baseball. My mom used to, she actually, when I can't even remember how old, probably 4 or 5, she'd give me a piece of graph paper when the World Series is on. I would actually do the box scores for the teams. That's one of my earliest memories of actually watching sports on TV. It was pretty cool. So from an early age, I've been very interested in baseball. You mentioned, I think you said you have something in the marsh there that is from the Gold Eyes. I don't know if it was a cap or a cup, but
right here.
Well, I've attended a few Gold Eyes games. The most enjoyable experience I think that I can possibly recommend to anybody. You can get seats cheap. It's just such a relaxing, such a fun evening to have with a family and friends. I got to tell you, it's the most ultimate experience. It's far better than watching anything on TV. In my opinion, from that regard. But I do have to ask you, you've got a good eye for the game, a good eye for players. But I would be interested to know if you could right now, if you could purchase the top 3 NFTs in baseball for your franchise, if you could have them, which 3 would those be?
Mike Trout, Fernando Tatis Jr., and Jacob deGrom. I think those are, probably 3. When you combine the future that they have, they're all fairly young, and the ability for the Legends League. I mean, Mike Trout is considered the best player in baseball and has been for a lot of years. He's hasn't been to the playoffs very often, so still a lot of people are wondering. But and that's going to be a personal choice. But those are I think the top 3 that I would be looking at right now. That's obviously debatable. There's so many great players. But yeah, I'd probably go with those top 3. Imagine if you could start a team with those top 3. I don't know what that would be like, but those would be probably the 3 top names. And I know somebody else could probably have a different list with totally 3 different names, and that's possible because I don't think in baseball there is that Connor McDavid-like player. Where McDavid's not the most accomplished player, but he's definitely the most skilled player, and goes first overall in fantasy all the time. Mike Trout is probably the best player, all around best player in baseball, but depending on the team, some guys might look at different options.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I've never played fantasy baseball. I assume a roster of about 40, regular season, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but my specific question to you is, and maybe this isn't figured out yet, because I know we have some time yet, is just how you choose your pitchers, because I don't even know how many you can have on your roster. What, 13? I mean, teams have a whole slew of pitchers on their roster, right? I just don't know how that works.
Yeah, so there's baseball. Major League Baseball has a 40-man roster, and then it's I think it's now 26 has to be on your active roster. So you have an active roster of 26 players, and then you obviously have your 8 position players, and then your pitcher. So we haven't figured out all the details. I'm leaning towards universal DH because who wants to watch? We don't even want to watch pitchers pitch in real life. Who wants to have a fantasy pitcher up to bat and hoping that he doesn't strike out? So I'm pretty sure there'll be a universal DH. But you will have. I don't know if we have that gameplay set up, but Major League Baseball teams have a 5, sometimes the 6-man rotation. I'm not exactly sure. We haven't, figured out the entire structure of how it's going to work. But you'll have the 12 to 13 pitchers on your roster. As far as whatever relievers, and I'm a big fan of holds. Saves gets a lot of the attention, and rightfully so. But I'm a big fan of holds, and that's the when you go in and you basically get the ball game to the closer and you stay in that. So I want to bring in some categories that maybe aren't in some others. And listen, Brian and Matt, they're going to have a big say in this as well, as we're it's not just me. It's going to be a team effort to build this. So. There's a lot still to be decided, but that's why we have that time. And, the great thing about this, and, Larry and I were laughing about this today, is, we're going to start the auctions right around the World Series and, build that momentum as, people are bidding and, some guy has a monster World Series. Oh, my goodness, I want to get that player. And then the auction's going to close on November 7th. And that is the day before Larry and I's birthday. So we just figured out today we share a birthday, and that's when the auction is going to close. So I think that's going to be a pretty fun week. I think for both of us, Larry.
Yeah, you should have plenty of reason to celebrate on the morning of, I guess it'll be Monday, November 8th. But yeah, that should be a fun weekend, fun day, a fun 2 weeks, I guess, throughout the franchise auctions, throughout the World Series, everything coming together there. And I know with Darren's question, the nice thing about with the UFFS platform is more often than not, when you get a gameplay question, the answer is, what does the MLB do, or how do they do it in the MLB? And, again, going back to that most realistic fantasy experience available, we try wherever possible, like Dean said, to mirror the real world sports league. So roster sizes, in baseball, like I said, no salary cap, but the luxury tax, like if you, and Andy mentioned it and summed it up really well in the announcing the UFAHL, but if you're a UFLB franchise owner, or a general man or a manager, manager of a franchise in the UFLB, you're going to feel like a real world manager. And that's the goal. That's what Dean and his team are doing, is he wants anybody who gets involved in this platform to feel like they're a part of the real world as well. And certainly scouting for sure. And Brian's heading that up. But me and Dean have had lots of conversations about scouting, but that's another exciting part to, like said, Dean, with the baseball side, I know Brian's already got lists ready to go, and we're 6 months away. But talk about just the ability to follow prospects on the way up.
Well, and, much like, Andy and his team with football are going to be diving into the NCAA, there's so much college baseball out there. It is incredible. I mean, this Edmonton Prospects jersey over here by my shoulder is a summer collegiate league. And, I got involved with them and did a podcast, loved it, loved going to games. We were broadcasting games. And these are players that you will be able to scout. You'll be able to go to a prospects game and be like, this shortstop has some really good range. He's got good speed. He can hit all over the place. He can beat the shift. And I'm going to look at this guy when I get home, or, on your phone when you're there. And you can look at that and you can list that guy as a scout. You can watch all these players develop. And then let's not forget the Dominican Republic, Latin America, Asia, the amount of players that are being produced. Baseball is really starting to get global as we're, one of our guys, Matt, is going to play in the Olympics. Like, how cool is that? So the potential to bring in international players, is something really cool. I know the NFL is massive as far as fantasy, but it's got most of its appeal in North America. I'm really looking forward to having owners all over the world in this, and seeing what they do. I mean, you guys were talking about the Legends League. I can't wait for this. What if Clayton Kershaw is an NFT star attached to a team? So he might not be the best pitcher in Major League Baseball. He's not anymore. He's probably not even the best pitcher on his team. I'm watching Trevor Bauer today go for that. So, but there might be somebody that says, I am such a big Kershaw fan. I want him until he retires, and then I want him in the Legends League. Okay. Well, there's more than one really big Kershaw fan. So maybe Clayton Kershaw is the most spent on NFT in the auction. It's all comes down to the approach. Are you approaching this from a fantasy perspective? Are you approaching this from, a crypto perspective? Are you approaching it from an investment perspective? There are so many options, and you could be, I could be bidding, or well, I won't be bidding because I'm the head, but two people can be bidding, and they could be bidding for two different reasons, but still driving up the price on those players. So I think that's cool. And sorry, I missed my 1 minute cue there because I was talking so much. So there's my 1 minute cue to end this interview, guys. I've had a lot of fun, and I've probably wasted too much time babbling.
No, that's
you didn't waste time at all.
Go
ahead, Larry.
I think you nailed it. I think Dean nailed it there with the global aspect of baseball too, because you look at Japan, you look, like I said, South America. I think there's not too many people on the other side of the oceans that are playing American football, as we're calling it. So I think baseball from the scouting side has the potential to be tens of thousands of prospects around the globe. So it's going to be, I'm really excited to see how the scouting side takes off with baseball and how it funnels into the ecosystem. But yeah, thanks again, Dean, and great to have you in the fold. I know you're hard at work already, and although you have 6 months to go, I think you got a really nice start, and now the cat's out of the bag, so you can really get to it and have a lot of fun the rest of the way.
Yeah, thanks. I'm so excited. And, Larry, you've been such a huge help with so many questions that I have about relating it. We want to model it, as you said, just like Major League Baseball. And this is just the beginning. There will be minor leagues, AAA, AA. They have two classes of single A. Well, what about the KBO? Remember during the pandemic when they were showing live KBO baseball? That league is crazy awesome. The Dominicans, there are so many leagues. So we start with one and build to many. And this is just the beginning. And thank you very much for having me on the show. Even though I had to be here to produce it, it was still great to be here.
Well, we're very happy to have you as head of operations for baseball, because I can tell that you're very passionate, and there's never, I would never call it wasting time when we're talking about UFLB or UFFS. And I'm rocking the Blue Jays jersey. I just wanted to point this out today. You can see how white and clean it is. You can tell. I've owned this for probably 20, 25 years. I only get this out on special occasions. My son saw me pull this out for this podcast today, and he said, "Dad, do you know how much I could get for that thing on the streets in Winnipeg?" So if I'm not wearing this for another podcast, you're going to know why, that someone took this thing and stole it out of my closet. But thanks again, Dean, for your time today. I know you were here anyway, but so excited to have you on board for this. So this is number 2 of, 2 big sport announcements out of 4 we've just recently announced here lately. And we are going to be back right after this to wrap up some very important dates here in the UFFS.
This is the UFFS Podcast, Ultimate Franchise Fantasy Sports, where you own the game.
Well, Fish, I'm just picking up my baseball glove here again because I'm just so pumped. This is, who needs Red Bull when you have stuff like this going on the podcast? Like I said, I could eat this stuff for breakfast and I would be set. I'd be set for the week.
Oh, it's a whirlwind, like I said in the intro, and having both the enthusiasm and the passion that comes out of both Andy and Dean is just incredible. And I know from talking to them over the last, today's the big announcement, but this has been in the works for at least a month or, a few weeks. And so they've done a ton of work behind the scenes already, and they're ready to go. And they've really dove in with both feet or jumped in with both feet, and definitely are hands-on already. So right away here now in the next couple of weeks, you're going to hear a ton about both the UFAHL as well as the UFLB. And it's cool too that Andy and Dean go way back. We didn't know that when we met them. Obviously, we've known Dean for a year now, but we didn't know that when we met Andy, that Dean and Andy go way back too. They actually worked together a bit at TSN and through TSN Radio. So very cool that they knew each other, and we're in very good hands with two true pros in the media side and in the fantasy side as well.
Yeah, and these are two massive sports, right? I mean, we don't need to tell most people that, but you look at the fantasy sports, and NFL is just massive, right? It's a huge thing. And then you look at the fantasy aspect of baseball. Certainly, I wouldn't know that as well, but I do know that, and I think Dean alluded to it. Just on a global scale, the scouting and in the leagues, in Japan and just all over the world, baseball is a huge sport. So we're really hitting the big time here. Of course, basketball isn't something to to take lightly either. With the UFBA launch, NHL is to us here in North America and Canada is a big deal, but globally it's certainly not on the scale of some of these other sports. So these were two just massively huge announcements, and in my opinion, and I think a lot of people agree, two of the right guys to have in place.
Absolutely, and you're right. NFL football is probably, for as far as investment wise and what people spend on fantasy sports, I think fantasy football is number one. Soccer is obviously the biggest global sport, and when you get into the scouting and stuff, I think the most prospects registered will be in soccer. But as far as people who invest, significant amount of earnings and their own personal money into fantasy football every year, it's a $1 billion industry, and we're trying to bring the elite fantasy players into the UFAHL, which is, as I like to call it, professional fantasy sports. So these are these franchise owners, these general managers, these we've even talked about coordinators, right? Offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, sort of building out your real world staff with football. But these people that are coming in are going to feel like they're a part of the real world sport. And I think the UFAHL is going to be massive. And I think the UFLB, with Dean overseeing it and the team he's putting together, I think is going to raise the bar extremely high on what we know as fantasy baseball today. It's going to take it to a whole nother level.
Absolutely exciting. Can't wait. What we should do is we should just remind everybody of the franchise auctions in order of calendar dates that are going to be coming up. We've got the UFAHL, even though we just announced it, is going to be the first one. As I said, we're already halfway through April. So coming up July 4th to 18th. The UFGA is going to be August 8th. The UFL, well, actually, what I should say, before that, say the UFBA, we don't have the date nailed down, but it's going to be sometime most likely in September. And then, of course, we do know the dates of the UFLB, October 26th to November 7th. So really looking forward to those. Those are going to be exciting days. I think I should book my vacation probably right now to be ready for those. But yeah, this is going to be really, really cool, Fish.
Yeah, no rest for the wicked this summer and going into the fall with all the sports that we've announced actually taking their 5 steps to launch, right? With the franchise auction and then the branding aspects. Every franchise gets a logo or 2 logos, primary, secondary logo, color scheme, the whole 9 yards, and jerseys or uniforms. And, all of that goes into real world branding will also be part of getting your franchise ready for the inaugural season. And then from there, of course, you're drafting rosters. There'll be a top prospects auction for every sport where you'll get to bid on the top prospects that have yet to debut in the real world league. So there's that aspect. And then, of course, the scouts will get to work right around the time that the inaugural season kicks off or tips off. So there's going to be a ton of growth between now and the fall. And then when we get to the start of the baseball season, the inaugural UFLB season next April, a year from now, UFF Sports is going to look a lot different than it does today. That's for sure.
It's looking different every single day as we go, looking better and better. So, as we round out the show today, we should talk a little bit or remind folks of some of the, the really cool little contests we got going. The Score Pass Win Zil contest. I've taken part in that thing a few times here. I've created a saucer pass of that NFT, and I think I threw it onto someone's tape a couple of times. Just a couple of weeks left in that. 3 draws of we're well over 1,000 ZIL right now going up for grabs. Going to give that away on April 30th. So get in on that if you haven't already. It's join our Telegram page and play. May 1st, this is a big deal. The Score Coin private sale, public sale, June 1st. Like to direct your attention to the website. It is live. It's been live, I think, now for a couple of weeks. @www. There it is, UFFSports.com. And you want to click on the hockey link. When you click on the hockey link at the top, as our producer extraordinary has just done, you will see that there is your option here to just sign in if you have registered. If you haven't, then you should register, because this is how you are going to buy the score with Zil on the website.
Yeah, there in the top right corner, you would click register, and then from there you'd sign in. You can see, that only launched on Monday, this past Monday, and we're already up to 209 fans. And on launch day, we had 3 fans, but obviously over 3,000 hockey players registered. That's the only sports athletes that are available to register as of now. 36 hockey scouts, 64 hockey franchises, and again, when you add golf, and you add football, and you add baseball, and you add basketball, all those numbers are going to be quadrupling, if not more. So this platform is going to be huge sooner than later, and it's very exciting to have the actual web platform out there for everybody to go check out. And like you said, first and foremost, make sure you're registered as a fan, which is free to do. There's no cost to register as a fan, but you need to be registered as a fan in order to get a UFFS wallet, and you'll need to transfer Zil into that UFFS wallet in order to buy Scorecoin on May 1st, which is 2 p.m. Eastern on May 1st is when everybody will have their first chance to get their hands on the Scorecoin or Score token. And trust me, there's a lineup already, so you want to get in on May 1st and get registered in advance, get your Zil loaded up in advance, and be ready to go at 2 p.m. Eastern on May 1st.
Yeah, and you can read the white paper. I mean, everything's there. People have a lot of questions. You can run through the tokenomics is there as well. And I did register as a fan, so I am one of the 209 fans, and I played around with it. I loaded some Zil. I do have some Zil in my UFFS wallet. Very proud to say it was seamless. It was very fast, and I'm ready to go. I love the website. The news articles in there as well. I mean, there's basically everything that's been released, every announcement. We've had some pretty big blockbuster announcements as we go. So all there for people to read. So I don't even think you need to register to be able to read the news articles, correct? I think you can just go on and poke around.
Yeah, if you're on the platform as a guest, as a website visitor, you can poke around. And you're right, the news platform has obviously the press release that came out when we expanded to golf. We'll have another one for announcing basketball, baseball, and football all in one package. And also one of the big partnerships that we announced for the hockey side. We saved it. We sat on it until the website launched or until the platform was up. But key partnerships in the hockey world with elite prospects, Instat and Fanalytica, who are industry leaders in the hockey world. They're helping power the platform, helping with the database side of it, the registry side. So we're very grateful to have elite prospects, Instat and Fanalytica as partners. And certainly, yeah, that's an exciting article. And there are several other ones on there that are of interest, especially if you're just stumbling on UFF Sports for the first time. It's always cool to look back and see where we were a year ago and where we are now. And certainly this article highlighting all the different partners on the hockey platform is very exciting for us, because those are some industry leaders in elite prospects, Instat and Fanalytica.
Yeah, absolutely. So the point is, if people are looking to invest in projects, they want to know as much as they can about the legitimacy of the project. And that'll likely determine what that project is doing, their vision, what their future plans are, and how much they might want to invest. We like to encourage people to invest, certainly. Of course we do. But you can see that there's a lot of stuff on the website. So please go there, www.uffsports.com. You just saw it. And just have a look around. You can see what we're all about. Larry, before our time is up, we should talk about, one thing that makes our UFFS, I guess, platform, our vision, what we do unique is owners meetings. This is community based. This is community run. And as long as it fits with the vision and makes sense for the future of the league, we will be having owners meetings coming right up. So owners should be preparing. If you could just give us a few points on what some of the owners should be preparing for here.
Yeah, the big thing with the mid-season owners meetings is they're going to get together and discuss the entry fee for next season, which will be due in early July. So they'll have a couple months to prepare for it, but it'll be percentage based off of the current or off the final prize pool, because the prize pool for 2021 was capped on April 12th, last Monday, at the NHL UFHL trade deadline, and capped out right around $51,400 USD, $31,400 dedicated to the 2021 prize pool, with a $10,000 carryover for 2022 and 2023 was what the owners actually decided that at the off-season meetings last October. So they do have a significant say, and I think these mid-season meetings are just kind of to refamiliarize with the owners, talk about the season that was, because the regular season's winding down to the final 3-4 weeks, final month of the regular season in the Ultimate Fantasy Hockey League. So talk about the way the season went, but more so talk about what's to come as far as the playoff draft, the expansion draft, the first time we do UFHL free agency. Obviously, we have our entry auction, our version of the NHL draft, as well as the futures auction, where scouts get to bid on the next youngest age group that is introduced to the platform, because we do have age limits of essentially 15 years old. So the next wave of 15-year-olds will be eligible to be bid on in the futures auction. So we just sort of go over the rules and how that's all going to work, and get them up to speed, what they need to prepare for between now and I guess the end of July. But the big thing I think is that the scouts, the UFFS scouts, are going to make a presentation at this owners meeting, or are planning on making one, to the franchises, because the scouts want to be part of that. This is essentially our version of the NHL's Board of Governors meetings, and the scouts want to have their say as well, because they're like you always say, the bloodline of the UFHL franchises, or the lifeblood of the franchises. So the scouts want their say. They're going to make a presentation and discuss some topics with the franchises as well. And then the other big thing this week is the scouts are putting out their mid-season draft rankings for the 2021 NHL draft. So if you're one of the 36 scouts on the UFFS platform, you have an opportunity to submit your top 64 for 2021. The deadline is actually tonight, but if you're a day late, we'll try to squeak you in. But definitely, if you're a scout, you want to get your mid-season draft rankings, your top 64 for the 21 NHL draft in as soon as possible, because they're going to be published next weekend ahead of the Under-18 Worlds, which start on Monday, April 26th in Texas. So those are the two big items this week, and leading into the weekend is the UFHL owners meetings and the UFFS scouts mid-season draft rankings.
Looking forward to it. You're going to be busier than ever, Fish, as you always are, working 24/7, as we say. But who needs Red Bull when we got announcements like today? A lot of things always happening. If you don't hear about it here on the podcast, you're probably going to hear about it on some of our other great podcasts you can see here on the screen right now, and or our various Twitter pages that we have out there as well. So I want to thank everybody for joining us on this episode of UFFS Podcast number 21. So extremely happy to add to our family of head of sports operations, welcoming Andy McNamara, Dean Millard. Want to thank them so much for their time today. Great to have them both on. And we are on the UFSN network. As we said, host of other great shows. DM Productions, want to thank Dean Millard for producing the show as always. And if you want to get in touch for more podcasting services, it's www. You can see it right there on the screen, podcastla.ca. I want to thank everybody again for their time, and thanks for joining us here on UFFS Podcast number 21, where you own the game.
This has been the UFFS Podcast with Darren Bates and Larry Fisher. Get in the game where you own the game at www.uffsports.com.